If you're rubbing oil or breast milk or coconut oil or an oil-based balm onto your baby's cradle cap, you may actually be making it worse. I see parents doing this all the time, and it's one of the biggest mistakes that you can make if you really want to get rid of cradle cap. So today I'm going to break down what cradle cap is, what causes it, and what you can actually do to get rid of it without it coming back. My name is Megan Garcia. I have a background in Chinese medicine, which includes acupuncture and herbal therapy, and my specialty is pediatrics and specifically age 0 to young childhood. This is really when a lot of immune development takes place. And I tend to work with parents who are struggling with immune-mediated conditions like food allergies and eczema and hives and rashes and reflux and things of that nature. Cradle cap is called seborrheic dermatitis, and it is caused by an overgrowth of yeast on the skin along with excess oil production. It looks like greasy, scaly patches on baby's scalp or maybe around the eyebrow area, around the ears. It is not caused by dryness, it's not a hygiene issue, and it is not contagious. And it is not something that you need to smother in oils. Cradle cap is linked to a yeast called Malassezia, and this yeast, Malassezia, is lipophilic or fat-loving, and this means that it likes to feed on the fat or lipids in sebum, and sebum is what your sebaceous glands in your skin excrete. Other conditions that are related to Malassezia overgrowth include fungal acne in adults, baby acne, a condition called tinea versicolor, which is like cloudy patches on the skin. And as far as yeasts go, different species of Malassezia are very, very common in healthy people, from babies to adults. Very common. What the problem is when this yeast overgrows and it kind of creates little biofilm patches all over the body. We don't want that. And part of this is because what happens is it starts an inflammatory cycle where the yeast irritates the skin. This causes the sebaceous glands to excrete more sebum, which then feeds Malassezia. And so because this is a fat-loving yeast, you can see why putting any kind of lipid or fat onto the skin is going to actually feed the yeast that causes cradle cap. And breast milk is also fat-rich, so we want to avoid it. More oil equals more food for the Malassezia yeast that causes cradle cap. The exception is something called a hydrocarbon, which is mineral oil, which I tend to avoid, but squalane is another oily hydrocarbon that you can put on the skin and it will not feed Malassezia yeast. So this is something that you could use. Another oil that you could use, which is actually an oil, is MCT, or medium chain triglycerides. And this has been found in research to not prompt the growth of Malassezia, and in addition to that, it may even kind of like control the growth. So it is squalane and medium chain triglycerides, capric and caprylic acid. These are the two things that you can use on baby skin. And just as an aside, I do have a balm that is a gel-based balm, and it contains these oils along with traditional Chinese herbal botanicals infused into the oils to kind of like make it a little bit more medicinal if you wanted to apply this. But you could also just use straight MCT or squalane and get really good results and not feed the yeast that causes cradle cap. So what actually works when addressing cradle cap? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to loosen the scales, and you can do this after bath time with a little cradle cap comb. Those scales are the biofilm that help to protect Malassezia, and it's created that around itself. So we want to loosen that up, and then we want to apply our topical. And remember, this can be MCT, this can be squalane. We want to avoid oils. You can use also my Bye Bye Beasties balm. This is a mixture of the squalane and MCT and TCM botanicals in a gel-like base. So that would also be a good option. You want to apply this to the skin to keep the area well moisturized and protected. And then you also want to consider the fact that there is a gut-skin axis, and the gut-skin axis is basically mediated by the immune system. And so there is a relationship between gut health and baby's skin health. And this plays out in many ways, from hives to eczema to cradle cap. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting baby's immune system. And this comes down to nutrition on a most fundamental level. Is mom nourished if you're breastfeeding? What is baby getting if formula feeding is their combo? And then when starting solids, you also want to make sure that you're providing your baby with adequate immune nutrients. What good nutrition means in terms of the immune system, it really includes fat-soluble vitamins and minerals like iron and zinc, along with DHA. This is a really important fatty acid that does support immune health. And so we want to keep those things in mind. And I have a whole class on baby nutrition if you want to check that out, that goes into all of those nutrients and how to kind of navigate it if you're just getting started with solids. And then the next and final step that actually gets rid of cradle cap is just keeping your baby's scalp clean. And this does not mean overwashing it. We actually want to really protect the microbiome of the skin. And so less is more. So cradle cap is a sign of how your baby's skin microbiome is adjusting. And these signs don't just include your baby's skin microbiome, it also has something to do with their gut microbiome and their immune system. And there may even be some link, and this is according to Chinese medicine, to future conditions like eczema. The skin is part of the gut-skin axis, and this is a two-way bidirectional relationship. And so what this means is that skin health affects gut health and gut health affects skin health. And we have a lot more science and research when it comes to how the gut affects the skin. However, we do have a lot of studies confirming that also skin integrity influences gut integrity. A lot of this takes place through the immune system. If your baby has cradle cap, there may also be signs of reflux, eczema, colic even. And so this is why I teach parents how to support the gut and the immune system from day one. It really is that important. You want to start early. If you're not sure what is best for you and your baby's skin, you can also email me hello@megangarcia.com, or you can drop a comment below and we can kind of figure that out. If you got value from this, please share it with another parent who you think may find it useful. See you next time.